host on this channel. In this video, we will have our discussion on an entirely new concept, new playlist, which is going to be on the KP Astrology, which stands for Krishnamurti Padhati. So now friends, you must have heard this term a lot many times from the active astrology practitioners or followers, because this field in itself is competent enough in giving you right set of predictions and guidance. Now friends, if I were to share my own experience, my own journey with KP Astrology, so I give more attention to KP Astrology when it comes to doing any sort of prashna analysis. Like, I do not have a precise birth details and right instantaneously at a moment I have to give guidance to someone. Like, this could be any of the concern of theft item, stolen item, going for a matchmaking, you are not sure how that meeting is going to turn out. So I generally and basically use KP Astrology for all of that. But lately I've been seeing lot many good work which other astrologers in the community are doing on KP Astrology. So I just got intrigued and curious and driven that I should also start uploading my journey, my learning on KP Astrology with all of you guys. So now friends, definitely there is going to be some point of differences, some methodology or principles which are going to be slightly different over here. But trust me, it's not at all that complicated. All what it comes down to is that how to check it and how to study it once you have the software and you have your KP Astrology report right in front of you. And I'm very much sure that after watching this video, at least your 70-80% of the doubts and your queries on KP Astrology is gonna get clear. And rest, it all depends on how much efforts and dedication you are showing in order to gain mastery over this field of astrology. So now friends, my whole objective in this video is that to make you guys familiar with the KP Astrology, the principles which are used in KP Astrology, make you guys familiar with that. And lastly, we will also take up a case of a celebrity chart or a reference chart as a case study, where I'm going to show you the relevance of KP Astrology and how to look at certain alignments. So now friends, to begin with, now first thing is that just because you have to work on KP Astrology, so there are certain things which will get carry forwarded from the Prashri astrology. So like, whether you are right at the beginning of your journey in astrology, or I assume that you must have got a good idea and good knowledge about all the astrological principles, but there are certain things which will stay common. So out of those things, first is going to be the significance of the houses. So I am assuming it over here that you know the basic meaning and attributes of all the 12 houses in Vedic astrology. So first house tells about your personality, it tells about the concerns of your health. Second house tells about your speech. This is the house which tells about your wealth, your earning capacity. Third house tells about all sort of commission, contractual jobs, the way you work with your skills, concerns of courage, valor, and your relationship with your siblings. Fourth house tells about the concerns of property. Peace of mind we see from the fourth house, and also the learning prospect is also seen from the fourth house. And because these days a lot of queries hover around the concerns of working from home, so even over there fourth house plays a very significant role. Now friends, fifth house chiefly tells about the concerns of progeny, children, education, your intellect. Sixth house is the house of loans, of liabilities, of disputes, and also your health. Seventh house tells about the concerns of partnership. This is the house of marriage. And specifically friends, these days a lot many people are gonna ask you, if you are a full-time astrologer or you're trying and preparing to become a full-time astrologer, so majority of the times people are gonna ask you, am I more suited for doing a job, or am I more suited for doing a independent business? So sixth house generally tells about all those people who generally do good in service, and seventh house tells about independent business. Eighth house friends in KP Astrology as well is considered as the house of difficulties. So defamation, scandals, controversies, we generally see from the 8th house, but also inheritance and loans are also seen from the 8th house. Now friends, 9th house is the house of higher wisdom, learning, foreign travels, we see from the 9th house. 10th house is the house of your profession. This is the house of status and all those people who in any way want to gain, benefit or associate with government or politics. We see 10th house. 11th house in itself is the house of your elder siblings, and this is also the house of your wish fulfillment. 12th house is the house of foreign lands. This is also the house of losses and investments or recovery of the lost items. Now friends, now you know the signification and meaning of all the 12 houses. One last thing which I want to say over here is that about the significance of the Karaka, signification of all the 9 planets. So Sun is the significator of your father, the concerns of government or recognition. Moon is the significator of your mother, of your emotions, of your feeling. Mars is the significator of your relationship with your siblings, prospects of courage and valor. When we talk about Mercury, Mercury is the chief planet of communication, self-expression, how skilled you are, and also any of the concerns of multitasking we generally see from the Mercury. And your aunts, your uncles, and also your relationship with your sibling, specifically sister, we see from the Mercury. Now when we talk about Jupiter, Jupiter is the significator of expansion, of wisdom, all the teachers, mentors and good fortune. Friends, when we talk about Venus, so Venus is the significator of wife, Venus is the significator of luxury and finances or financial gains. Saturn is the significator of wisdom. Saturn is also the significator of delays, all sort of obstacles, but the chief significator of career, power and authority. Now friends, when we talk about Rahu and Ketu in KP Astrology as well, so Rahu definitely is the significator of confusion, all sort of obstacles, obstruction, obsession, and Ketu is the significator of enlightenment, moksha or detachment or separation. Now friends, when we talk about the importance of or the way KP Astrology works, so over here friends, rather than giving more attention to your Rashi chart or the ascendant chart, you are gonna give more attention to your Bhav Chalit chart or the KP chart. So I will explain it to you that when we talk about the ascendant chart, which generally the Vedic astrology, the Prashiri astrology followers follow. So in that you will find that houses are fixed and houses have been given equal division. But when we talk about the Bhav Chalit chart or the KP chart over here, like the division has been done on the basis of the degrees of the rising sign, and because of that here you have to give more attention to the cusp of the house. Now when I say cusp, cusp means the starting point of a house, and here the division is not equally divided, this is unequally divided. So basis your rising degree, you might have you might come across that once you open the KP chart or the Chalit chart, you might even see that you have both in the second house and in the third house same sign, like Libra, both in the second house and in the third house as well, you will find Libra sign being written over there. So there is a logic of that and you have to follow it and read it like that only. Now friends, when we talk about that, obviously the Rashi chart or the Lagan chart is also gonna have its say, but what you will do is that you will look at the ascendant chart only to study the aspect and the conjunction. But when we talk about studying the position and reading the placement, for that, while making use of the KP astrology principles, you will only look at your Chalit chart or you will only look at your KP chart. Now friends, now let's add some more details to it. Now friends, the major point of difference between the ascendant chart or the KP chart is that it can, first of all, it is very easy and quick to learn. So someone who is right at the starting of his journey to learn mystic sciences, so trust me, I will, and you are more inclined towards the fortune telling part or the predictive part. Like for you, you do not want to get into the deeper spiritual aspect of learning all these astrology or these mystic sciences. Then I would say, in order to gain mastery over the predictive sciences in a shorter span of time, KP astrology can actually prove to be more beneficial for you. Second thing is that many times you will come across all those kind of situation where like you have to do a reading for twins. So where the time of birth is very closely connected with each other of both the twins. So over there KP Astrology can give you more deeper insights. So what is the logic for that? I will soon gonna tell you. So in that regard, that KP Astrology specifically for the predictive part and gaining this field in a shorter span of time. So in that regard, KP Astrology has got an upper edge over the natal chart or Vedic or Prashuri astrology. The second thing is that, friends, now comes down the principles which you have to remember or which you have to work on. So the first thing is that, friends, in this there is one entity which is gonna have a major say, which is the sublord. So I will show it to you. So the way, friends, you know this thing that like you can divide the whole sky in equal 12 parts. So if 360 degree you will divide it in by 12, you are gonna get 30 degree of each sign. Now same way, friends, if you're going to make 27 division of it, so rather than dividing the 360 degree of the complete sky then 12, if you're gonna divide it by 27, you will get 13 degree 20 minutes. So which is the space of each nakshatra. Now in order to get this sub lord, you have to make a further 9th division of it. Right now, friends, I do not want to make things complicated for you because you are just starting up with on this KP Astrology video. So just simply put, sublord, whichever planet is going to be, that planet is going to have or is going to give you majority of the information pertaining to your query, pertaining to the matter of any specific house. So that is one thing. Sublord becomes very important. Now this could be for each house as well. So friends, over here I'm not gonna say house. You will find in majority of the KP Astrology tutorials, books or the videos, people mentioning cusp lord. So rather than I'm saying first house lord, I will use the term first cusp lord. Rather than me saying fifth house lord, I will say, as per the KP terminology, fifth cusp lord. So whichsoever planet is going to be the fifth cusp lord's sublord, SL, that planet is going to give you majority of the or maximum information regarding the matters of that house. This is just a beginner's information which will help you in your journey on KP Astrology. Now friends, so after knowing about that, sublord tells you about the whether result is going to be favorable for you or not, or complete information regarding the matters of that cusp or that cusp house in your KP chart. Now friends, the second thing is that when we talk about the way things work over here in KP Astrology, we give more attention to the group of the houses. So now house grouping is something which makes, for me, I find it very interesting. So I will explain it to you that, for example, for any of the concerns of the marriage, so the terminologies or the approach which we use in the KP Astrology is that you have to see the group of the houses. So for marriage, you have to give attention to second house, which is about your family. Then you have to give attention to the seventh house, which is the house of your actual house of marriage, of your partner, of your spouse. Then you want your this wish to get fulfilled, so then you have to give attention to the 11th house. Same way, any of the concern of service, of job, we have to give attention to the second house, because second house also tells about your finances. Then we have to look at the 6th house, so number 6, because 6th house also tells about your service. And we have to give attention to the 10th house, because 10th house is the house of your profession. So for any of the concern of the service, we have to give attention to 2, 6, 10. Same way, friends, if your concern is regarding childbirth, so for that you have to give attention to second house, which is the house of your family, 5th house, which is the house of progeny, and 11th house, which is the house of wish fulfillment. So this is how, friends, the KP Astrology works, that you should be very sound and you have to be familiar enough in order to include right set of house numbers pertaining to any of the nature of your query. So now, friends, for this specific concern, I'm mentioning the link of an article in the description of this video, where this article is from AstroSage app. So over there they have listed down the nature and different kinds of query and how can you relate or group houses connected to that query. So now what you have to do is that you have to test yourself. So for example, if your concern is about to look at for any of the concern of obtaining loans, so now you have to test yourself, are you able to group the right set of houses for that or not? So now friends, okay, let me be very clear with you. KP astrology might be new for you, but you have been following Vedic astrology for long time. You know the signification of all the houses. All what is now required out of you is that are you able to connect and group or include right set of houses connected with that query or not? So now when I say obtaining a loan, so obviously second house has to be included in that. Somehow in a way 6th house also have to be included in that, and 11th house because it's the house of wish fulfillment for any of the concerns of like signing a contract or for example publication as a profession. So if a querent or a client comes to you and his query is regarding this matter, or the person wants to know regarding any of the concerns of basic education, applying for a foreign university, so immediately you have to know that if you wanna solve that query from KP astrology, so you have to be clear about that pertaining to this query, which all houses I have to put in a group and I have to study. So for that friends, this article might prove to be helpful. I will suggest that rather than doing a cheating, first test yourself, put a hand on the right side, see the query, type of query, and probe and guess the houses and then check it. That's how you can master your this skill of grouping and including right set of houses for any query. So that is one thing friends which is gonna be used extensively in KP astrology. Now friends, another principle which we use in KP astrology is that 12th house from any house negates the signification of that house. So with this I mean that if 5th house tells about progeny, so what is the 12th house from the 5th house? That is the 4th house, which is gonna deny it. If first house tells about your health, what is the 12th house from it? That is the specifically 12th house which tells about concerns of losing your health. If 7th house tells about the concerns of business, independent business, what is the 12th house from it? That is the 6th house. If 10th house tells about your profession, so what is the 12th house from the 10th house? That is the 9th house. So in a way friends, when we talk about any of the concern of your service, so for that we say that 2nd house, 6th house, 10th house are important houses for that. Now which all houses are negating them? So 12th from the 2nd house is the 1st house, 12th from the 6th house is the 5th house, 12th from the 10th house is the 9th house. So that is how you have to study that while doing the grouping of the planets or while studying the Dasha in the KP chart. If these are the certain houses which are coming, are they negating that query or are they supporting that specific query of yourself? So over there the KP astrology and using this principle of 12th house from any house negates the signification of that house or that query of yours can actually prove to be very helpful. Friends, one last thing before we jump to the reference chart or the case study, which is that see like the way I mentioned this thing at the beginning of this video, that you have to study the aspect and conjunction in the main Rashi chart or the ascendant chart. You will only study the position, placement and study the dashas in the KP chart while using the KP principles obviously. And over here as well friends, you are only going to use the Vimshotri dashas. You cannot blend or confuse the principles of Yogini Dasha like Mangala, Pingala and put it in the KP chart. You cannot do that. You cannot use the concepts of the Chara Dasha like Atma Karaka, Dara Karaka in the KP chart. No, you only have to use the Vimshotri Dasha over here. So for example, the grouping which I just explained it to you, that might prove to be very helpful for you while utilizing and putting the principles of the Mahadasha, Antardasha or the Pratyantar Dasha Lord planets. So for example, the grouping which we have discussed for the houses which promises marriage, which are the 2nd house, 7th house and 11th house. And for example, the moment you open the chart, you got to know that the Mahadasha Lord is sitting in the 2nd house or is ruling the 2nd house, and the Antardasha Lord is also ruling the 11th house or sitting in the 7th house. So that is how, via doing the grouping of the planets which are currently active, the dasha which is currently active, you can give answer to the query of the client or of the querent. Because friends, once we get deeper into our analysis, our learning in KP Astrology, you will get to know the role of these 3 entities: planet, nakshatra lord and the sub-lord. So planet generally becomes the medium, nakshatra lord becomes the result giver, and sub-lord tells about the quality of those results. So I will simplify it for you. So planet is going to become medium. So foreign land could be a medium, which planet is going to tell you. Nakshatra lord might give you result, finding a job, finding a marriageable partner, and sub-lord is going to tell about the quality of that result. So is marriage gonna work out or not? Is business in foreign land is gonna work out or not? So that is how the hierarchy of planet, nakshatra lord and sub-lord works. Planet act as a medium or source, nakshatra lord act as a result giver, and the sub-lord becomes as the giving you information of the quality of the result, good or bad. Now coming to the last section of our today's discussion, on having a discussion on the case study. So now friends, you know my habit that whenever I have to present some celebrity reference chart, I always go the glamorous way. So today we are gonna have a discussion on the chart of Marilyn Monroe. Now friends, actually I was watching her documentary which was recently trending on Netflix. And definitely friends, whenever we talk about anything to do with fame, that sort of lasting, fame, glamour, being a sex symbol from those times, and still you are still being seen as the epitome and a symbol of success, glamour. So there is something which we can find in her chart in the form of the planetary vibrations which helped her in her professional career. Second thing is that friends, I am very much sure that whatsoever software you might be using right now, whether you use Jagannath Hora software, Prashara Light, or you use Astro Sage, so majority of the softwares or apps have a section for clicking and looking at the details from KP's perspective as well. So right now what you are seeing is the details from the KP system perspective. Now friends, as you can see in her chart, she has a Cancer rising, so Cancer energy. In the 9th house we have an exalted Venus, in the 4th house Saturn is exalted, in the 10th house Sun is exalted. Over and above that, her moon nakshatra was Dhanishta. And whenever we talk about that sort of lasting fame, being most famous, that is the attribute of the Dhanishta, and that too taking place in the 7th house, that in itself is the house of public. And friends, because she was being seen as the sex symbol of her time, so Mars is also being present in the 8th house. So we can be very much confident and sure that the details which we have right now in front of us is right. Now friends, the point which I explained it to you, that in KP system we give heightened attention to the sub-lord. So over here as well, if you will see that here we are talking about the cusp. So I am not gonna use the term first house, I'm gonna say first cusp. I'm not gonna say 7th house, I'm gonna say 7th cusp. So now friends, what we have to do is that we have to first see that who is the first cusp lord. So as you can see over here that we have moon as the first cusp lord. Now the second thing is that the nakshatra lord of the moon. So in the second column you will see the nakshatra lord. Now third column is something which becomes very important for us. So which is the sub-lord. So now friends, try to understand this thing over here. From the KP perspective, now if you want to get a deeper idea, information regarding the matters of someone's profession, so what you have to do is that you have to see the 10th cusp sub-lord. If you want to look at someone's matrimonial concerns, you have to look at the 7th cusp sub-lord. If you have to see someone's concerns of gains or networking, you have to see the 11th cusp sub-lord. So in her case friends, if I were to show her chart as a reference, so in her case her 4th cusp sub-lord is the planet Mercury. Her 7th cusp sublord is the planet Ketu. So now friends, this is your very first video, so I do not want to complicate things for you over here, because the next finer precise details which you gonna get is gonna come via whatsoever your cusp sublord is. You have to take that discussion and you have to take it down or narrow it down to that sublord's nakshatra lord. So for example, the finer precise details are gonna come regarding the matters of the 10th house via looking at. So step 1 is that you have to look at the concerns of profession. So 10th cusp sublord, so in her chart that is the planet Mercury. Now you come to the table below it. So in the Mercury section you will see that which planet is the nakshatra lord of Mercury. So for this case it is the planet Moon. Same way friends, for any of the concerns of the house of relationship, so that is the 7 cusp sublord. So in her case 7 cusp sublord is the planet Ketu, as you can see. Now once you will gonna come down to the planetary position, you have to see who is the Ketu's nakshatra lord, which is coming out to be the planet Venus. So the symmetry of that I will try to connect in the next video, but trust me friends, just gaining this much information from this video in a way that now you have understood that grouping plays a very important role in KP astrology, no matter what the concern is, whether it's about finding the lost item, whether it's the concern of any court trial, whether it's the concern of winning a lottery of any sort, winning over any political seat. So important is that how successfully you are able to group the houses which are getting involved in order to grant wish or give you the answer of your concerned query. So first thing is that grouping the houses. Second thing is that you have to be very much familiar about the concept of 12th house. From any house negates its signification. So if first house is you, so 12th house is the loss of the health. If second house is the concerns of your finances, so 12th from second is the first house, which means losing out your finances. So you have to be very much familiar about this principle. And third and the most important, the contribution and role of the sublord. Now friends, it's too early for you to be flooded with this much information, but like whenever we do the horary or prashna kind of concerns, all what you have to do is that if someone has asked you right at that specific moment that okay, I'm gonna apply for this contract or for this job, what is going to be the outcome, you have to see right at that time, you have to draw a KP chart. You have to see that whatsoever house is getting concerned, which planet is the sublord of that house, concerned house, and how beautifully and well dignified that planet is placed. Definitely the person who knows KP astrology is gonna ask you any number to choose from 1 to 249, but that is very early for you to get into those details. Just get this takeaway that sublord plays a very important role in KP astrology, and for all these kind of nature and concern of queries where you have to give the answer in a very quick span, in a very snapshot way, KP astrology and being familiar with KP astrology can give you lot of information. So this is something friends which I wanted to say as a part of my inputs on this introduction video on KP astrology. Although I all the time appreciate your participation, your comments, but specific to this video I want to see and I want to know how much have you understood the concept of KP astrology, how much you are interested now to be on this journey of KP astrology with me, because apart from this there are so many things which are pending in my to-do list. I have to complete a discussion on Chara Dasha, I have to complete Yogini Dasha, I have to make so many other videos as well. So please write your views and your opinions on this concept of KP astrology, and I will look forward to that. So friends, for further more updates and notifications on the divine science of Vedic astrology, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. Dhanyawad.